Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. We've been working on various kinds of fingering charts, and I really don't want to go over another fingering chart with you, but what I'm going to do to start off, I'm going to show you, just show you some pictures and some graphs and so forth of different kinds of fingering charts, not to go over them specifically in terms of this is how you play this note or this is how you play that note. But various authors and various writers show fingering charts in different kinds of ways. So I just want to show you a few of those, and then we'll go on to timing. So let me get started. We'll be paying attention to some charts and pictures here. This is a picture of a flutist. I just brought this in to show you the proper way to hold a flute. And as you'll notice, the left hand goes on top, the right hand goes on the bottom. It's very much like a recorder, except you're holding it out to the side instead of up and down like you would with a recorder. So I thought I would bring that in. And I'm going to be showing you fingering charts for more than one instrument. Now, this is a flute. And although it's not a fingering chart, it's per se, it's a really very nice rendition of a flute. And what they've done is they put circles where your fingers go. Your finger on your left hand doesn't go on the top one. You skip the top one, and then you put your index finger on this one. You skip this one, use another finger here, use another finger here. That would be for a G sharp, and these three. So you can see just by looking at that, if you're playing flute, where the fingers go. And that's kind of important. So then let me switch over here to the next page. This is also a flute fingering chart, and what's good about it is that all of the notes are held to the side. Most of the recorder or other instruments, the instruments are held up and down, but they're not held out to the side. So they have arranged this flute fingering chart so that all of the fingers will be, all of the pitches will be out toward one side. It's very natural. For anyone who's playing flute, that's very natural. For a recorder, you wouldn't be able to use it because the position of the hands and the position of the instrument is different. Here's another way for the flute. I do a lot of flute work, which is why I've included this. Here again is the picture of the flute. And where you put your fingers. This would be the back side of the flute where you touch the sides that give you the octaves. It would be an octave mechanism. And here, now this is not the whole thing, but just to give you a glance at it, this is the instrument, and where the notes are covered, where you would close the keys on the various notes. So I think my favorite kind of fingering chart is when you actually see the instrument, some kind of a rendition of the instrument, and you can see exactly where the fingers go. And this isn't too hard to follow. It may look confusing to you if you're not playing flute, but it's not too hard to follow for a flute player. And you notice this would be the octave mechanism in the back of the flute, which you can't see from the front, of course. And you would put your finger down on the places that are darkened in. So that's a flute. Let's see here. Let me go on. This is a clarinet fingering chart, or part of one. I didn't bring in the whole thing. It's like 3 pages long. But the good part of this is that you do get a really nice picture or nice rendition of a clarinet. I mean, it looks very natural. All of the keys show up. This would be the back where you have the octave mechanism. It's not, it's really kind of a register key. It does the same thing as an octave mechanism does, but you don't get a true octave. You get an octave plus 5 notes. So therefore, it's called a register key, and your thumb hole, what would be equivalent to the thumb hole is right here, and you close that with your thumb. And so this is the clarinet. Now, I'm not teaching clarinet, but this is the fingering chart for trills for the Bayham clarinet. It's a lot longer than this, but I just wanted you to see it as a sample. There are some fingering charts that are so extensive and they're so complicated, they take 4 or 5 pages, but I don't see a need for that. At least in a class like this, I don't see a need for it. So let me turn over here. Skip that side. This is a saxophone. sometimes a picture of a saxophone is not as good as a sketch of a saxophone. It's a beautiful picture of the saxophone. You've got all of your keys and so forth. But if you have a sketch of it, they can emphasize exactly where it is that you need to put your fingers. So I'm going to turn this over. And here is a color rendition. It's a drawing, a very good drawing of a tenor saxophone. Now, how would I know it's a tenor? It has a little crook in the neck piece. This part up here is a neck piece. And in the altos or instruments that are a little smaller, it just goes straight across. But you get a little crook in it, and then you've got a tenor saxophone. Okay, it's in the key of B flat. This is the octave mechanism here. This is the bell. This is the body of the instrument. These are all the keys. But I'm going to show you a black and white copy because if I'm going to teach you, if I were to teach you, it might be easier to do it on the black and white. So this is the black and white copy right here. What makes this good is that, one, it's very, very accurate. The other thing is, it's easy to follow it. Where do you put your fingers? Well, if you're told where to put them, you can easily see all of these keys, the side keys, the front keys, the keys on the bell. And of course, I'm not teaching you saxophone, but it's very, very interesting the way that they have this design. You see a key, and you see a little circle like on that key. That's where your finger goes. You see a key, another one, a circle there. You put your finger there. Here's the key, and your finger goes on that little circle. These keys down here don't have those little circles, and you're not putting your hands on them at all. But you have this one that's got the little circle. You put your hand on it. This one also. This one also. And then this, you can't reach it. There's no real circle there, but where would you press it? On these side keys over here. They will control the keys down there. That's why saxophones and clarinets and flutes have rods. You can press a key on one part of the instrument and another key on another part of the instrument opens. That's what makes them complicated, more complicated than a recorder. I'm going to do a little more with this. This came from one of my saxophone books when I started learning how to play. Saxophone is my main instrument. But you can see it's a whole picture, in a sense, of the body of the saxophone. It gives you the exact hand position. It tells you exactly where your fingers go. These you don't use because other keys control them. And so you have a little staff right here. You have the treble clef right here. You have a fingering chart right here. It shows you how to do it. This would be the top 3 fingers and one on the bottom. And then it actually shows you because it has a picture of it. Now, I think that's really the best kind of fingering chart. And with that particular book, every single note had one of these pictures. So I've got one here, on here, that's the D. And you see, a lot of fingering charts, this is all you get. You know, you get the 3 holes on top that you got to close, and you've got 2, well, this would be an E rather than a D, 2 on the bottom that you have to close. That little line shows the difference between the upper register and a little bit on the lower register. There's a little line in between showing where your left hand is. Your left hand would be on top, and your bottom hand would be the right hand. So that's an example. I really do like these books that have all of that information in it. This is another one. This is the D. Now this is sometimes all you get right here. You get the treble clef. This is the note as it appears on the staff. It's the lower D. And then you have your 3 fingers up, and you have your 3 fingers on the right hand down. And that's what you get. That's what this means. 3 on your left hand, 3 on your right hand. And this is the difference, that little line between them, between the right hand and the lower left, between the left hand on the upper part of the instrument and the right hand on the lower part of the instrument. And you can see it written out on the staff right here. It has the note, It has the fingering chart right here. So a lot of times that's all you get, but I like the pictures added, and I think that that's really good. Now, here we get, I'm going to take a drink. Here we get the recorder. This is an excellent picture of the recorder taken from one of my recorder books. And you see left hand on top, right hand on the bottom. This is a sketch of the recorder. This is the note. It's actually a C. This is how you play it. This is the note that's covered, and then the thumb hole in the back is also covered. That's very clear, and it goes through basically a scale. It doesn't go through the sharps and the flats. I would do that separately if I were teaching you. This is the way you hold it in your mouth. You hold it down. This is a very excellent chart to follow if you're a new student, to give you an idea as to what fingers go down and when. I've got another one here that shows the whole octave. The other one didn't show the whole octave. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, and C. And so at any rate, and I have the whole scale down here, we read our music from left to right. So what I was doing was taking you down the scale. This goes up the scale, but anyway, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. I would write it to the right if I were actually writing this out for you to play it. But that gives you a chance to see exactly where you put your fingers. There are some pictures, they show you the way that you hold your mouth position. It's really a very good way to learn. Now I want to get into timing, and timing is important. And the way I did it for little kids, I call it my donut method. I took something, I knew if I could take something round, and if I could cut it up in different pieces, I could show by fraction what a quarter is, what a whole is, what a half is, and that's what I did. So that's what I did to teach children. Here's your donut. I kind of blew it up a little. It wasn't actually that big. What I did was I went out and I bought a package of donuts, sugar donuts, and then I put it on a photocopier and I enlarged it. So this is the donut. Well, kids like that, and then I'll show you how I subdivided it. It is the easiest way to learn time. Okay, so this is the full donut. This is probably about the size that it was. And that's the whole donut. So what does it exemplify? This is the whole note, the whole thing. You can subdivide it into halves, quarters, and eighths. And actually, you can subdivide it as sixteenths and so forth. You can subdivide it as much as you want to show the different kinds of lengths of time that you have. So this would be the whole. If you cut that donut in half, then you get 2 halves. So here's the whole note, 4 beats. We're going to go on the basis of 4 beats because most of the music that you're going to see is based on 4/4 time, but certainly not all of it. And so this is just the easiest way to get started. So your whole, it would be the equivalent of your whole, and since we're dealing with 4/4 time, it would be worth 4 beats. Split it in half and you get 2 halves. Each one is worth 2 beats, and the total is still 4 beats. 2 halves equal a whole. 2 half notes, each 2 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, equal the whole note. So supposing that I want to split it further, well, then you get the quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. You just split it in half again. 4 quarters equal the same as 2 halves, which equal the same as 1 whole. It's just a matter of fractions. If you break it down like that, it's much easier to learn if you're teaching a child or even if you're teaching an adult. There are a lot of people that have trouble with timing. They have trouble understanding how the eighth notes work and the quarter notes work. And the easiest way to understand it is to take something that you know and start subdividing. Well, you can get divide the quarters, you can divide them into eighths, and this is what you got. You have 8 eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's still equal to those 4 beats. You get the whole thing. You just split it up. So 4 quarters, 2 halves, 1 whole, it's all the equivalent. When you have a time signature of 4/4, what you got is 4 beats to a measure, and each beat is the equivalent of a quarter note, which would be this right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know this is probably too simple for some of you, but for a child, this would be a natural way to learn. But you can go even further than that. And let me turn the page. Here's the whole note, the whole donut. Here's the half. Here's the quarter, and I've seen that before. I've shown that to you before, but I want to go through it because I have something else that follows it. So whole right here, half right here, quarters right here, and let's take a look at the next page. I have the quarters right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have the eighths right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's go one step further. And this is where I get into 2 parts, the left and the right. And the left, you can see the eighths, which is what I did before. And you can cut that in half, and you can get 16ths out of it. 16th notes are fast notes. We won't be going any faster than 16th in a class like this, but you can subdivide the 16th and make them 30 seconds. And then you can subdivide the 30 seconds and make them 64ths. So let me go on from this. Here's your whole note, just a clear circle, no coloring in it at all. Here's your half note. So this would be counted 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 notes, but they're equivalent to the quarter note. Or you could make quarters out of them, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole note and the half note are the only notes that are clear. Everything else is colored in. Then you can split these quarter notes and make eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They can be drawn in different ways, but they all have one flag. This is the body of the note right here. That little line up here is a stem. These little lines up there, they're all stems. And then when you have that little slashing sign right here, those are considered to be flags. So when you get to the eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and is how you would count it. These lines here, they're considered to be slash marks. They're considered to be flags. If you were to split the 16ths, well, let me get to the 16th first. The 16th has 2 flags on it. This is a flag. This is a flag. If you're drawing a 16th note, you have your body, which is colored in, your stem, and 2 flags. Those little slashes are 2 flags. And with the 16th notes, each group of 4 is the equivalent of 1 beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And even though I've subdivided this, it's still basically the same thing. 2 flags on this, 2 flags on this, it counts as 1 beat. This is 1 beat, 1 beat, 1 beat, 1 beat. So you have 4, 4 times. Now, we're not going to get into it, but just to show you, if you were to split the 16th, you would get 30 seconds. They have 3 flags. We're not going to get into it because we're not going to use it, but just to show you. And then if you split the 16th, 30 seconds, you can get 64th notes by having 4 flags. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you stop to think, timing is basically subdivision. You can divide, and then you can divide, and then you can divide. Now, it can get very complicated because when you're dealing with 4/4 time, this always has the full beat of the measure. It has whatever the measure is for timing. It has it all because it's one whole note. It is the only note there. But what if you had 3/2 or 6/8? I mean, it does change, so the timing would be changing, but we're dealing just basically with basics here, so we don't have to worry about that now. Now, let's see. I want to add a couple more things here before we go into something else. Here's another diagram. There's no bar lines here, so whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, and 16th note, 32nd note, and 64th note. We won't be working with them, but I want you to see what they are. 4 beats here. Now, what if you have 3/4 time? Then that whole note is worth 3 beats instead of 4 beats because it has whatever the measure is worth it has. It's not going to have 4 beats because you're not in 4/4 time, you're in 3/4 time. What if it was 6/8 notes? Well, you could say this is worth 6/8 beats because you just drew it that way. For the rest, 4-beat rests go down from the top. They hang down from that 4th line. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can do it this way. And if you want single measure, single beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a single rest. This is a whole rest. The 8th notes is just little lines like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 rests in the 8th beat. So it does get a little complicated. I'm watching my time here. Let's see. I have to get this turned. So here's a staff. The staff is 5 lines. The bar lines are these lines that go down. There's no notes there. When you get to either 2 lines or a thick line, that usually means that your song is over. Here's a 4-beat rest. It hangs down. The 2-beat rests pop up. This is, let's see, a single beat rest right there. When you get this space here between the bar lines, that's called a measure. So all the notes between the bars are considered to be measures. Now, let's see. I don't have much time left, so I think I'll close it here, but I'm going to continue with this next time with a review. And then I'm going to teach you some simple songs to play. So we'll close it here. Please join me next time.